Bună ziua, prieteni! În acest clip vreau să vă ofer o perspectivă inedită, una este europeană, asupra războiului din Ucraina. V-ați întrebat vreodată cum văd acest război țările vecine nouă, ce probleme au din cauza războiului, ce atitudini au față de refugiații din Ucraina, cât de influente sunt anumite narative rusești. De asemenea, după ce Trump a revenit la putere, care este atitudinea față de Statele Unite în statele din Europa de Est, oricum le mai spunem, statele de pe flancul estic al NATO. Despre toate acestea o să fie vorba în clip, promit să fie interesant și dacă vă place, vă invit să dați like și să vă abonați. Puteți deveni membri ai acestui canal și puteți susține apariția materialelor mele jurnalistice. Mulți dintre voi o faceți deja și pentru asta vă mulțumesc. Sprijinul dumneavoastră mă ajută să continui, să începem. Așadar, în acest clip o să aflați ce spun cehii și polonezii despre războiul din Ucraina, despre ajutorul pe care îl oferă ucrainenilor, inclusiv despre ajutorul militar o să fie vorba. O să ne ajute să înțelegem mai multe Caterina Cehia, este jurnalistă la Update EU din Cehia, și Alexandra Krysztosek, jurnalistă la Focus Europe din Polonia. Până afla ce spun polonezii și cehii, vreau să vă împrospătez un pic memoria. Dar ce spun românii? Păi noi, românii, știm că nu prea știm cât ajutor militar am oferit Ucrainei. De fapt, guvernul s-a schimbat, miniștrii apărării la fel, dar filozofia de ajutor militar a rămas aceeași. Ajutăm, dar nu spunem cum și cât. De curând am aflat ce-i drept, totuși, că România a sprijinit Ucraina cu 1,5 miliarde de euro din februarie 2022 și până la jumătatea anului trecut. Asta reprezintă cam 0,6% din PIB. Cifra este prezentată de Consiliul Fiscal din România. Suma înseamnă cam 500 de lei de fiecare român, iar dacă este să calculăm pe lună, înseamnă că un român a dat Ucrainei, ca să se apere desigur, mai puțin de 2 euro pe lună, ceea ce situează România în rândul statelor din flancul estic NATO, care oferă cel mai scăzut sprijin Ucrainei. Pe de altă parte, nu știm care este arsenalul militar oferit drept ajutor. De ce? Explicația vine de la miniștrii apărării. Aceștia au explicat de-a lungul timpului că dezvăluirea ajutorului este un risc strategic. Nu este bine ca inamicii să știe ce are sau ce a dat România din stocurile sale. Asta este poziția oficială a Ministerului Apărării. Acum să vedeți și ce spune opoziția din România. O să citesc dintr-un comunicat al Partidului Aur. Citez. Ar arăta dimensiunea sacrificiului impus românilor pentru interesele unei alte țări. Guvernarea de astăzi, împreună cu Bruxelles, împinge România într-o cursă nebună de reînarmare pe spinarea unui popor care abia își plătește facturile și abia pune mâncare pe masă. Am încheiat citatul. Poporul care abia își pune mâncare pe masă este, desigur, poporul român. Acum că am văzut cum stau lucrurile la noi, haideți să vedem și ce spun polonezii și cehii. Deci, cum e la ei? Vizionare plăcută.
Today's guests are Caterina Cehia and Alexandra Krysztosek. Poland was among the first states to deliver military assistance to Ukraine. Alexandra, do you remember those days? How was the decision made and what kind of military and non-military aid Poland provided over these 4 years?
Yes, I think quite all remember those first days. And since the full-scale invasion kicked off in February 2022, Poland, we must say that, has been an absolute lifeline. And we are talking about unwavering support, not only political, but also, as you mentioned, military support and humanitarian one. And when it comes to the parliamentarians, the Polish parliament fast-tracked resolutions to get Ukraine into the EU and NATO at the very beginning of the war. And what is remarkable, it wasn't just a government thing. It was the time that the law and justice was in power. But that was a moment of a relatively wide cross-party unity, especially between the Law and Justice Party and its main political rival, the main opposition party at that time, Donald Tusk's civic platform. And such a consensus happened extremely rarely between those parties. So it needs to be noted, and it is not that there was a complete consensus between the parties, because there was some opposition from the far-right Confederation Party, but still it needs to be noted. And with the military help, Poland was also one of the first countries to step up, and that was, as we all remember, the time when with the military side, things got really intense across Europe. And the biggest, I would say, kind of help was turning the Rzeszów-Jasionka airport into the world's largest logistic hubs to send weapons to Ukraine. And if equipment was sent to the Ukrainian front lines, there was a very high chance that it passed the Rzeszów-Jasionka airport. And to give some numbers, as many as 47 packages of weapons were delivered, including 300 tanks, for instance, and nearly 600 armored vehicles, and also fighter jets and helicopters. So there was quite a lot of all that.
Quite interesting. Yeah, I would say that it's a big aid for Ukraine from Poland, also military aid. Now we're moving to Czech Republic. I just want to know what about your aid to Ukraine? How I understand there were some platform to help to gain money from around the world to help somehow Ukraine and to buy even weapons from Ukraine. How does it work? What do you know about that?
The situation of political support is, I would say, similar to Poland. The Czech government at that time, because we also had elections like in Poland, was a strong political supporter for Ukraine. And you mentioned the Czech initiative, which is a Czech-led ammunition initiative, which is basically a platform for other countries to buy ammunition for Ukraine. But then the election came in October 2025, and the situation is a little bit different now in the Czech Republic. I would say the election has brought significant change because the government is now formed from previous opposition parties. The election has been won by ANO party, led by Andrej Babiš, who is now a Czech prime minister, and its approach to supporting Ukraine is rather different than the previous government. So he also wanted to stop the ammunition initiative, but luckily it has never happened. He just changed his mind, so the ammunition initiative is still alive. If I may say some numbers, Czechia has delivered around 390 pieces of military equipment and tens of thousands of rounds of large caliber ammunition worth approximately 236 million euros. In addition, the government provided financial contributions for military equipment worth approximately 266 million euros, and Czech support also included training for Ukrainian armed forces and contribution to international support mechanism. Also, the civic society is very helpful, helped the refugees. There is human aid initiatives. So the situation, I would say, it's similar to in Poland.
Now, I would like to move to Poland and to understand how Poland civic mobilization was, I understand, unprecedented as well. But how did civil society in Poland help refugees? And also, you mentioned that your authorities speaks freely about the military aid. Does that bother civil society, or it is a problem for society as well, for citizens of Poland, that they are helping military and they know how they help Ukraine, and if that is a problem in relationship with Russia? Please, Alexandra.
Yes, and what you've just mentioned, I think it's the most moving part of the story. The civilian help was indeed unprecedented, also in Poland, which received over 9 million Ukrainians in 2022 alone. And the data are especially striking with 77% of Polish citizens having personally helped refugees in one or other way, and 7%, and that's nearly 1 in every 14 people, actually opened up their own homes to strangers fleeing the war, which was quite unique. And almost 1 million Ukrainians entered the Polish workforce without needing a single work permit. And this wasn't just a state-led operation. This was a massive organic search from the civic society. And but this all had also its dark side, which needs to be mentioned. And the situation was quite complicated with the massive opposition towards anything that's Russian. And we have an idiom in Poland to throw baby out with the bathwater. And I think that's what happened in the very early months of the war, with a certain kind of cancel culture towards anything that is connected to Russia. For instance, concerts being cancelled, and even a certain stigma towards the Russian language, even though most of the Ukrainians live in Poland, actually they speak Russian and not Ukrainian. But moving back to the help towards the Ukrainian society, there were quite a lot of civilian initiatives to deliver some weapons or any other kinds of humanitarian help towards Kiev. And for instance, in the summer of 2022, there was an initiative started by journalist Sławomir Sierakowski, who set a goal to buy a Bayraktar drone for Ukraine. And 22 million zlotys were raised as part of this initiative, which was quite remarkable. And for instance, even in the last winter, there was an initiative called the Warm from Poland for Kiev. And in just a few weeks, Polish people pulled together several millions zlotys, allowed for a massive shipment of heaters and generators for hospitals and various other facilities in Ukraine, which was important, especially during the time of the very low temperatures. And at the same time, as you asked, the mood towards helping Ukrainians has indeed changed over time. And when it comes to the government, both the Law and Justice government that ruled in Poland until late 2023 and the current Tusk's coalition government, they are largely supportive towards Kiev. But there were some situations that influenced the relations between Warsaw and Kiev, with probably the biggest issue being the Ukrainian grain crisis, when the massive amounts of Ukrainian grain and other agri-food products Polish market being actually flooded with those Ukrainian food, which was a big problem for our farmers, having to compete with cheaper and lower standard products from Ukraine, and this caused quite a problem between the two countries, with Ukraine being of the opinion that if we close our borders to Ukrainian food, it actually means that we no longer want to support Ukraine and we support Kremlin instead, which was not the case. But this also influenced the moods of the people, and the stereotypes being reinforced that Ukrainians are just demanding, and they believe that they deserve everything to be given from the Polish people. And also there was something that I called a Wilanów effect. Wilanów is one of the richest districts of Warsaw. You can see these effects in Warsaw, in Krakow, in and the other cities, that while hundreds of refugees are actually struggling to and living in modest flats, there's also a very visible group of wealthy Ukrainians who drive expensive cars, who can afford flats that most of the Polish people would never afford. And that causes problems. And that fuels a pretty toxic sense of injustice and a widespread stereotype that Ukrainian refugees aren't just people fleeing for their lives, but rather demanding newcomers. And you can hear that in social media, for instance. People ask themselves, why are my taxes going to social benefits for someone who drive a car that I can't afford? So this is also visible in the polls that less people are willing to help the refugees. For instance, at the beginning of the war, the support for receiving Ukrainian refugees was over 90%, and now it's slightly above 40%. So the change is substantial.
Right. We could see, so curious that there are some stereotypes here as well in Romania, you mentioned in Poland. Let's see how it's going on in Czech Republic. What are the most important civic initiatives supporting Ukraine in Czech Republic? Katrina?
While the support for Ukraine has changed after the elections on the political level, the civic society is still strong supporter for Ukraine. You have asked about concrete initiatives, so I can mention, for example, the humanitarian organization Człowiek w Ciśni, People in Need, which has been active in Ukraine for more than a decade, and it provides aid such as access to drinking water, heating fuel, and backup energy sources. Quite significant is also the crowdfunding initiative called Darek pro Putina, a gift for Putin, which allows private citizens to financially support the purchase of equipment for Ukraine. And it's not only about some humanitarian aid or generators, it is also about drones or cars for battlefields. And this initiative really delivers. For example, during blackouts, which Ukraine suffered from this winter, Czechs have donated hundreds of millions of crowns for generators and batteries through this crowdfunding initiative. I can also mention Charita pro Ukrainu, Charity for Ukraine, which is known and also provides humanitarian assistance, including medical supplies, psychological support, and generators for affected communities. So the help in terms of aid from civic society in organization is really significant throughout the time in the Czech Republic.
Thank you. I will like to move further to speak about how authorities in these three countries speaks about their support to Ukraine. It's very interesting because the case of Romania I mentioned already, it's curious. The Romanian public only found out last year that Romanian authorities had sent more than 20 packages of military aid to Ukraine. We know for sure about one Patriot system that the authorities have communicated.
Our Prime Minister Donald Tusk has always been quite clear that any peace deal without concrete security guarantees for Ukraine isn't just a problem for Kiev, but for the whole Europe, and it's a direct threat for Poland, to Poland as well. And when it comes to our government, the Polish government, it doesn't have a reason to hide the information about the assistance delivered to Ukraine. But yes, with the skepticism arising across the Polish society, far-right parties are gaining power by promoting these narratives about Ukrainians beginning to rule in our own country. and the Ukrainian society gaining more rights than we, the Polish society, actually have. So we are beginning to foreigners within our own country. That is the narrative, and is certainly fueled by the Kremlin to some extent. But I'm very reluctant to say that this all has originated in the Kremlin. Of course, there are plenty of trolls, especially in the internet, that are probably originated from Moscow or from Russia in general. But the skepticism among the Polish society is also a very convenient fuel for our own parties. So, the problem of the coexistence between the Polish and Ukrainian society is actually there. And Russia is trying to exploit that and play for the divisions in the society. But still, there is this also those national narratives that not all of them have originated abroad.
Thank you. Now move to Czech Republic. Just want to understand what kind of narratives from Russia are involved in make more skeptical Czech public or Czech people not to help Ukraine.
It's not always easy to say that the narrative is definitely coming from Russia. Like, it's probable, but you can't say it like that in all cases. But yes, misleading information and disinformation are circulating in the Czech Republic for sure. And these are exaggerating the extent of military aid to Ukraine. So it's similar to Romania, as you said earlier. And what's alarming is that nearly half of Czechs believe some of these claims. One example, there was a false claim that Ukrainian refugees receive above average social benefits and other perks such as free housing or food or free tickets to cultural activities and so on, while Czech citizens are the one who are paying for that. And 38% of Czechs, nearly half of them, who are aged 16 or more, believe this claim. An even higher percentage of Czechs, that would be 39%, believed the claim which was tested in 2024, and that is that government support for Ukraine is one of the main reasons for the Czech Republic's growing national debt. So for sure, these narratives are circulating in Czech Republic, and nearly half of the citizens believe them.
I'm interested in if has the U.S. decision to stop supporting Ukraine. They cut some help to Ukraine, we know for sure, but had any impact on political decision regarding Ukraine in Poland, Alexandra?
Well, as you said, we are indeed one of the more pro-Atlantic members of the EU and NATO. But now we have quite a division between the president and the government, because our current president, Karol Nawrocki, who he didn't run as in the presidential elections as the member of the Law and Justice Party, but it's actually he was actually their candidate. And he is still quite strongly aligned with his old party, with PiS. And yes, he is portraying himself as one of the allies of Donald Trump, and he's quite supportive of Washington policies to the extent that he was willing to join the board of PiS, but the move was blocked by the government. And also, in the recent days, there were rumors that he would see the Polish troops being sent to the Middle East to support the US forces, like as a response for Donald Trump's being raged over the lack of help by NATO countries. And on the other hand, Donald Tusk has always had, tricky relationship with with Trump, even when during Trump's first term, when Tusk was the European Council president. And that continues. So Tusk is skeptical towards Trump. He strongly criticized him during the US presidential campaign and even kind of accused him of being aligned to the Kremlin. So that was the case. Tusk is also quite reluctant towards like delivering to and responding to Washington demands regarding the Middle East and so on. And when it comes to Ukraine, the reaction to Trump's reluctance to focus on helping Ukraine was that Europe has to step up instead. So Warsaw was one of the capitals that pushed for Europe to take the lead. Yes, but again, referring to what I've already said, that's also the field when the government strategies is starting to clash with the public's mood. And the Polish society is being afraid of the Russian attack. So the moods have quite shifted from a mood that we have to help our neighbor to kind of rhetoric that we have to defend ourselves. So according to one of the polls, a majority of Poles, around 53%, I believe, are now against sending any more weapons to Ukraine. And that's a staggering shift from the new 100% share we saw in 2022. But it's not that Poland wants Ukraine to lose the war. It's just the Polish people are worried about their own warehouses and their own defense capabilities. And people are asking, if we give away everything now to our neighbor, we be defenseless. What's left to protect us if the war is starting? So that is the tendency right now. So it can be said that we are gone from a nation of volunteers and open hearts to a nation of skeptics and kind of strategists. But this is closely related to our role as an Eastern flank country. So with the danger being real, we care about ourselves in the first term. So when it comes to then back to your question, our relation with the US are still complicated, but Poland, while most Polish, according to the polls, are losing faith in Trump's administration and its potential help against Russia in case of a war, there is still this this feeling that NATO cannot function without the US. So with Trump or without Trump, the US is still one of our greatest allies.
Yeah, thank you. We feel the same here in Romania when we are looking at polls. Now moving to Czech Republic. The same question about relationship complicated or not with US administration, Trump administration. But also I have one specific question about the latest news that conquer the public opinion here in Romania about Czech Republic. It seems that you have some new law that could oblige NGOs to register in some public spaces to know if they had some money gathered from abroad. And people here in Romania think that it's very similar to Russian law that oblige and Georgian law that oblige NGOs to register. In Russia, if you get money from abroad, if you are an NGO, you will be enemy of the state, or as they say, foreign agent in Russia. What about this new law in Czech, please?
I wouldn't say that Donald Trump's policy influence influence political decisions of the previous government. The previous government, led by Prime Minister Petr Fiala, continued to support Ukraine. The Czech officials increasingly emphasized that Europe must remain united and continue supporting Ukraine. But the situation is a little bit different with the new government and the current Prime Minister Andrej Babiš, because his position is, I would say, in line with the position of Donald Trump. He argues that the conflict should primarily be resolved through diplomatic negotiations rather than increased financial or military assistance to Ukraine. So that's the situation with the US. And on NGO law, firstly, I must emphasize that this is only a proposal. It's not law just yet. And it all started when media got to know that members of Czech parliament, which are part of coalition parties, are preparing a legislative proposal focused on NGOs and lobbyists, which is resembling the so-called foreign agents law known from Russia, Hungary, and other states, as you have already mentioned. To put it simply and shortly, it would mean that there would be a registry in which non-profit organizations and other entities with foreign ties and with income from abroad would report their foreign income in the registry. So it's not that strict like in Russia that you will be the enemy of the state, but the principle is the same. To know the flows from foreign countries, to know which NGOs have the foreign income, to be able to point a finger on them in the name of transparency. However, the Czech case is I would say chaotic, because the bill is really problematic and its future is not clear these days, because it turned out that essentially anyone, like a physical person with foreign ties or foreign income, would have to register, which I think it's not like it's
and Katrina, why they need this kind of law?
Well, it's the same case like in Russia, in Hungary, in Slovakia. They just simply want to have a fight with NGOs, to point a finger on them, to make it feel like there are some foreign agents without telling it, that they can influence Czech politics and Czech policies in certain way, that the influence comes from foreign countries, that it's not right. So the principle is the same, but it's not that strict in the text. But it's really problematic in the text, because, as I say, it turned out that essentially anyone with foreign ties would have to register. And about the future of the bill, it's not certain, but it's really chaotic, because just yesterday, that is 23rd of March, the Minister of Justice said that the bill is probably dead, that there will be only a decree, which would no longer apply to foreign income, but only to income from national budget. But today, just one day after, in the morning, the Prime Minister Andrej Babiš stated that he insists on including foreign income in the registry of non-profit organizations. So, that today it's not clear how it will end with the bill. But it's also worth to mention that the proposal was one of the government initiatives that sparked protest in the Czech Republic just last weekend, because the organization called Milion chvilek pro demokracii, a million moments for democracy, organized a demonstration in Prague that reportedly drew between 200,000 and 250,000 people protesting also against this proposal.
Thank you very much for your insights and for your explanation. Now it's very clear to understand what's happening in Romania. Of course, we know, but even in this part of European Union and Europe.
Acestea au fost perspectivele statelor de pe flancul estic al NATO. Dacă vi s-a părut interesant, nu uitați să dați like și să vă abonați la acest canal. La final, vreau să observați doar că există asemănări între Cehia, Polonia și România. De pildă, există narative asemănătoare anti-ucrainene și mai există întrebarea: cât la sută din aceste narative sunt de inspirație rusească și cât sunt producție autohtonă? De asemenea, toate cele trei state rămân a fi pro-NATO și pro-UE, indiferent de formațiunile politice care le conduc. Dar există și unele deosebiri. În Cehia există un guvern populist sau conservator, iar în Polonia este un președinte din această categorie. În România, aceste forțe conservatoare, numite și de extremă dreaptă, dar care preferă să-și spună suveraniste, sunt în opoziție. Și să vă mai spun ceva, indiferent de opțiunile voastre politice, pentru mine este important să vă prezint informații, să vă dau perspectivele altor state. O fac pentru că mă interesează să aveți păreri bine documentate. Pentru că pe acest canal de YouTube părerile vă aparțin. Vă mulțumesc că mă urmăriți.